Welcome, Vols and Lady Vols, to Power T Talk. From the Cathedral of Neyland Stadium to the fanatical landscape of college sports, we're breaking down the plays, the players, and the pride of the Southland. I'm Daniel, your host, here with my comrade and co-host, Zack. Grab your orange and white. Let's run through the tea. It's time to go our all for Tennessee. This is Power T Talk. I heard another idea, Zack, that will never happen, but I like it. And I actually think this is a bigger off-season conversation. I'm tired of every single idea that could work in college football or could be fun in college football or could be creative in college football basically being a non-starter because executives want more TV money, and anything that threatens the TV money but is actually a better structure is never going to happen. But I'm going to throw it out there anyway. We'll do this useless endeavor until one of them happens. I saw someone mention, and I don't know the original source of this idea, but that bowl season's dead. Bowl season has been dying. It's kind of dead, especially if they expand to 16, is a little more dead. We don't really know what to do with the postseason overall with other teams. The bowl matchup that gets set is not the game in December, not the game in January around New Year's. The bowl matchup that gets set based on your record that season is the first game you play of the following season.
I saw that idea, and I actually did not hate it. I actually thought that would be a fun way to get rid of the FCS games and have it as a 12th game.
And it's not perfect, but it's what better way to say, hey, you're matching up with someone who had a similar year the year before. You're not going to end up with Georgia playing, a 5-win ACC team that way. You're going to learn some stuff. It's still going to be imperfect, but I do think like the combination of more consistency in terms of how many conference games people play, and then a guaranteed similar tier opponent that was matched up based on last season and is like basically guaranteed to be a pretty decent kickoff game would work. This is all a waste of breath because it's never going to happen, but I love
Right.
it in theory.
And then you do rematches for the playoff games.
Yep.
Like, how much fun would it be Alabama, Oklahoma start the season in a rematch? Like that would be a ton of fun. You do Ohio State, Indiana week 1, Georgia, Texas Tech week 1. Like that'd be a ton of fun. Maybe you spread it out so you do it like over the first 2 weeks. But I actually don't hate that idea because you're right. After what Notre Dame's little hissy fit, that they have really hurt bowl games, and we already know kind of where it's going. And you fix the opt-out issue as well. And you can figure out practices. Like, hey, if you won 6 games, you get an extra 15 practices in this number,
Yeah, I think there was actually a time where those like extra 17 or whatever it was practices felt so special, and they helped early enrollees, and they helped you get your class on campus and things like that. I think now the bigger deal is let's fix this flipping schedule stuff, and let's not have just so many what feels like meaningless games. Now, again, the December calendar and the early January calendar is so void of other sports stuff that this is not going to happen, and it's not going to be a perfect solution. But I don't know, just from the NFL mindset of like, hey, you had a really good year this year. I hope you're ready for a harder schedule next year. It really does lead to parity in a lot of ways. Like there's a reason that the Bears have found some success this year, and they're probably going to come down to earth next year. Mm-hmm. And so I would love it from that perspective. But again, I would love a lot of things, and we're going to build our perfect college football this offseason. I don't even know if that'll end up in mine, but it was, I think, a very creative idea that was thrown out there.
It's better than the current path.
Exactly. If that becomes our comparison point, which is frankly the way I like to make decisions, then don't let perfect be the enemy of not terrible, which is what we're aiming for. And so
Speaking of not terrible,
Speaking of not terrible, we wondered if Heupel would be kind of stick to his guns, stick to his guys, or if there would be staff changes. And we were texting earlier this week about, is our timing gonna be lucky enough that we know something or don't know something? Do we want to know something? Do we want to be able to speculate? There's not a lot of the speculation has been taken care of. And so what news did we hear? And then what news did we hear following that? Pretty quickly, actually.
So Monday, Tennessee officially confirmed that Tim Banks was actually fired. We thought maybe he'd have a landing spot, especially with Franklin taking the Virginia Tech job. Maybe we see that in January, something like that. That was not the case. He was let go. And then Jim Knowles, a former Broyles Award winner, is going to be the new defensive coordinator. And I will gladly say, despite me being a Tim Banks defender, Tennessee got better.
Yeah, I think give your final thoughts on the Banks pattern. I think you and I like to appreciate when people put in their time as Vols. We like to appreciate what they did and maybe kind of trace what went negative. And we summed up a lot of it last podcast, but kind of review his tenure. Doesn't have to be long, and then let's think about the kind of big game hunting we did for our new assistant.
I think they had to do it. Whether Knowles was going to be a part of it or not, I think with what happened, I believe they had to make this decision, which was very tough. I thought Banks did an overall good job with a pretty thankless position, although he was handsomely paid to do it, which I think maybe was A, part of the reason why they made this move, and B, why I think he was willing to stick around instead of taking maybe some easier jobs. This was actually the first time the defense was truly terrible. They actually got better year by year when you look at the important numbers. But you cannot, in year 5, be 121st in EPA per play and 129th in success rate allowed. Cannot happen. I don't care what injuries, what rebuild, whatever. Just can't do it. I actually think Banks would have been fine if they had lost 34-31. But the defense was so objectively terrible in the second half, it sealed the deal against Vanderbilt. And while talent is an issue, especially in the back seven, there was enough talent to not be a disaster and bottom 15 defense in all of FBS. I'm not even talking Power 4 teams. Second all top of the line college football. The defense with Banks was way too reliant on 4 getting home. It was way too easy to diagnose our back end coverages pre-snap. The blitzes this year just never really seemed to get home except in the Georgia game. There were too many communication issues, and the tackling was the worst it's ever been under the Heupel regime. I feel bad for Banks. I don't believe it was all him. I still don't know if Inge or Martinez really deserve to be back. I know Inge is going to be the interim coordinator. Don't know if they deserve to keep their jobs. I think some of the recruiting and portal decisions affected how bad the defense was. But I think he got scared by the Georgia game. And I think he should have just tried to ramp up the pressure and call games aggressive. And it seems like he got scarred after Georgia kind of ripped them apart. I could not believe how unsound we were in gap discipline and misdirection plays, which had never really been an issue. And that's just bad coaching from the top.
It's such a different conversation when it's year 5 versus year 1. Like, right. I think if we saw this stuff and we knew the roster wasn't that, if this was the roster and it was year 1 with the coordinator, I think even you and I would have been like, listen, guys are going to be in the wrong spots. There's major talent deficiencies, blah, blah, blah. Like, this is what you've cooked. Like, you've been the chef here. You've been the one doing the recipe. Mm-hmm. And so you can't have a product that falls that flat in year 5. It's just, it is on you at that point. And I wouldn't be totally surprised if we are not done seeing staff changes. We'll talk about that more when we talk about Knowles. Go ahead with the couple of other things you think about in terms of like the defense and the pattern you've seen.
Yeah, 2 other things I'd bring up. Issues with practice and a lack of physicality and focus cannot happen, especially with how involved Josh Heupel is with the offense. And it's been reported that this was, I believe, a part of the decision-making. And with Joey Aguilar's comments after the Vanderbilt game, that seemed to be an implication that there was practice issues on the defensive side of the ball. We know Heupel was heavily involved in the implementation of a new playbook and change of play calling this year. We know Josh called plays this year. There's a whole other separate debate on if that's a good idea or not. But if that is how you are going to design the program, you must have complete faith in your defensive coordinator to implement and coach the defense correctly. You can have 0-second guesses at the DC spot with how the program is currently run. And with those reports of said issues, then you have to correct the problem at the top. Again, don't think it should all fall on Tim Banks' feet. That's partially on Josh as well. Like, you're the guy getting paid $8, $9, $10 million a year to run the program. And you're putting Banks in a 0-win situation with the offensive struggles in 23 and 24 and with some talent issues. But there's zero excuse for Tennessee to be outside the top 100 in most defensive categories, be terrible in both run and pass, and go from last year defensively 4th in EPA per play to 121st. That's a 117-point drop. That's insane. It was the largest drop in college football, unsurprisingly, for any other team. It just can't happen. And, year 5, maybe teams started figuring it out a little bit, but it really felt like everything was too easy to diagnose pre-snap. We didn't talk about it a lot, but as I was thinking when Banks got fired, just was kind of looking through numbers and thinking about what I thought during the years. I was writing stuff down. I was just like, man, I felt like I knew every defensive coverage based off what the linebackers were doing. And that just, if I can figure it out, then SEC offensive coordinators are going to figure it out.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting about the pressure thing. And this is one of those that I don't mean to just look back and say, oh, yeah, we knew these issues were sitting there. We never brought it up. But I do think when you intentionally look back with this lens, truly the only time we got pressure, the only time we moved a quarterback off of his spot, other than the Mississippi State game, and you predicted the tackles were pretty vulnerable in that game. Other than that, the only real times we moved a quarterback off their spot were when we brought pretty obvious pressure. Like McMurray was our best, I think probably our best non-lineman pass rusher because we blitzed from that spot so much and he started to figure it out and he's athletic enough to get in there. But again, the only times we really got home in some kind of a way that affected the quarterback was a really predictable pressure and just a really athletic play that made a play. And so I don't know. There's a reason we were so bad on third down. There's a reason we were so bad on money downs. And some of it was the back seven. Some of it was the secondary issues. But the other huge way to protect your secondary is to actually get home with the pressure. And I don't remember the last time we really did. You and I were texting, it might have been during Ohio State, Michigan, and this was before we got completely trounced. I don't know when it was, but I think it was during that game, where we just said, like, some of the ways that these defenses are flying around the field, it just looks completely foreign to us. And yeah, like, ultimately Jeremiah Smith took over that game, blah, blah, blah. But early in that game, the way Michigan was coming downhill with especially with their safety, it was just like, oh, you're allowed to do that? You're allowed to fly across the field like that or fly into the backfield like that and make somebody uncomfortable? And I feel like I saw it again when Indiana got the better of Ohio State last weekend. Cignetti's out there with people just plucked from a list. And he's got people playing confidently downhill in the run game against that offense. It's just, I mean, it's like golf clap, more power to him, but we didn't see that all year for us.
We never got better. Not one point in the season other than Florida, which is the 11th game of the year. And I think we have started to maybe realize that was more Florida than Tennessee. That you could be like, oh, defense played better this week. Even against Oklahoma, they had that monster first half, and Oklahoma did whatever they wanted in the second half. The pressure up front got worse. The tackling was worse. The safeties got worse. The defense got easier to scheme against. And for me, you cannot give up 41 points to Georgia in September, then give up 45 to Vanderbilt in the last game of the year and avoid responsibility. And it's one thing to have the injuries they did, and your defense sucks the first 6 weeks, but then you turn around in November. Like that, I can live with that, even if the overall numbers don't look pretty. But even with a tougher than usual Tennessee November schedule, to be so awful against Vanderbilt and get your ass handed to you by Oklahoma in the second half, plus a very uninspiring performance against New Mexico State. That was the most discouraging thing. And I think that was what Josh was most disappointed in. And I think he felt necessitated the move more than anything.
Yeah. He's a level-headed guy about this in some ways. He's very calm, but he knows what the gig is. He knows what the ask is. And to a man, to himself, he knew that this wasn't gonna get there.
And it's not the first time Banks has gotten called by the fan base. I know the fan base is different, but coaches hear this, right? It's not the first time Banks has been under the hot seat. So for Josh to make this move, and with the loyalty he has shown his assistants, I mean, maybe this is the second time, like, you can say a coach got let go. I think they let the wide receivers coach go after the first year, and I think that was, he took the job, and then it got announced or something. Either way, for Josh to make this radical of a move for him, this is a guy who doesn't fire his coaches, I think spoke volumes. And I don't know if Jim Knowles played a part in that or not, but I think Josh felt like it had to be done.
I want to talk about the Knowles hire, but I do want to do a pause, like a 2-minute pause on. So we learned about Banks. Who did you expect us to hire? You and I were like kind of batting some names back and forth. Neither one of us really said Jim Knowles. And so we'll talk about kind of where we landed there in a second.
Mm-hmm.
But did you have a name in mind? Did you have a wish list in mind? And this isn't even me hating the hire. I just kind of want to know where your head was at once you knew Banks was gone.
Yeah, Knowles, I thought was like a pipe dream because I just thought some Big Ten, Northeast, maybe Midwest team would get him because he did coach at Duke. And look, maybe this is just me. I wouldn't consider Duke the South, even though it's in the heart of North Carolina, if that makes sense. Like, that's just a whole different culture.
I'm not allowed to comment on this.
I gotcha. So I didn't know if he was on the table or if he might just take a year off, or maybe, at 60, he go be an analyst making, 100K or whatever, just, taking notes from the couch. But I thought, based off everything that was being reported, Ryan Walters from Washington was going to be the guy. And I would have talked myself into it. And I think that there was enough evidence that Walters could get the job done. I was still kind of scarred by what happened at Purdue, whether that's fair or not. And people will be like, well, he's the head coach. It's completely different being a coordinator. It's like, well, did you look at the Purdue defensive stats in 24? It was not good. So I was thinking Walters. Like, I thought, I didn't think Gerard Mayo was a candidate. I saw like that name get thrown in there. I thought maybe they might go after, a couple other SEC names that kind of just went about or whatnot. But I'm just, before we go into the weeds on it, I'm really happy with Knowles. I think this is an excellent hire. And honestly, I don't know if there was a better option on the board.
So I had my like in the weeds wish list. Like I had Nebraska just hired San Diego State's defensive coordinator.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that would have been a name that everybody hated, but it was actually a pretty good hire.
Right. Not a huge name, but yeah, a guy with a lot of success.
I was talking to my wife about it, and I was like, I don't really see it happening, but the name that is just like flashing there, if this was just a generic SEC school, is Muschamp. And I didn't actually think that would happen just because I don't really see that connection.
That's the one when I saw on the list, I got really excited about. I was like, he didn't have to recruit. Like, I would just take him as a defensive coordinator right now.
Just let him be a freaking maniac. And so,
yes.
But again, I didn't have any, like, not even pulling from rumors or whatever. I just didn't really feel like that was happening.
It sounds like he's good with the analyst role. I think if he wanted to be defensive coordinator, he would have stayed at Georgia.
And then Knowles was, we'll kind of talk about his recent stops, but if people would have started mentioning Knowles, I would have been like, hey, great idea, but I really don't see it happening.
Right.
And that's, Ohio State has found an adequate replacement, and it's not like he's going to bounce around back there or anything. And I know there's turmoil at Penn State, but like he could just land at so many places in so many different ways. He's had one ACC stop. It was like 22 years ago for a year. Like, it's just not his pedigree. And so I would have been really surprised. I also think we'll see how it works out. We'll talk about his scheme. But anybody who was frustrated with Banks, and a lot of the fan base was, you're not allowed to be upset about this. This
No,
is the
you
kind
can't.
of
If you have
big
any
game hunting
complaints,
that you wanted.
if you have complaints, you don't know ball.
Yeah, they went
Like, and I don't even know if
like,
Jim Knowles can recruit, and I don't care.
it doesn't matter. Yeah, they got the guy, probably the guy that would have been the D coordinator hire of the offseason. And so what do you see in Knowles or his scheme, or just what you expect to be different from Banks or kind of separate from Banks entirely? What does he bring to the table?
He's an excellent defensive coordinator. Fantastic resume. I wanted to mention the 2021 Oklahoma State defense, and his stop with Ohio State was excellent. You know, they won a national title. You know, they really, their defense is what had them win the playoff. I know Jeremiah Smith and Will Howard really got on the same page, but when you look at some of the defensive plays they made, it really was why they won. They really tightened that up.
I mean,
But I wanted to mention,
just think about us in Columbus last year.
I mean, Josh is one of the best like offensive minds in college football, and had 2 weeks to prepare, and he looked like he was seeing ghosts out there. Like, that's how good Knowles was. I wanted to mention 2021 Oklahoma State. It is arguably the best job by a defensive coach outside of Kirby in 22 this century. Oklahoma State, Big 12. By the way, Texas and Oklahoma are in this Big 12 here. They finished top 10 in opponents' points per play, opponents' yards per play, yards per pay, points per game, yards per game. I meant yards per game. Yards per rush attempt, sack percentage. They finished second in EPA that year per play, third in success rate, number one against the run at Oklahoma State. And you can literally point to Jim Knowles leaving as the Mike Gundy's downfall. Like, you can actually point to that correlation.
Big time.
You take the fact that we mentioned they were absolutely nails for Ohio State's national title run, played some good offenses. I mean, poor Dylan Gabriel, man, like, had no chance in that Rose Bowl game. They had 8 sacks against him, for example, in that game. They made Sark look like Heupel, like he was seeing ghosts as well. I mean, they really won off the back of their defense. They were awesome against Notre Dame up until the fourth quarter, when I think they played a little too much pre-bench. But they demolished in the first 3 quarters, other than that first drive where Riley Leonard sacrificed himself for 7 points. And Penn State was not great defensively this year. It was average to above average. But 2 things. Penn State was bottom 10 in plays per game offensively. They were a disaster offensively. And once Aller went down, it was even worse. Go watch Penn State's defense against Indiana. You'll come away impressed. And Knowles is known as a guy that takes a year to really implement his stuff, and then the defense explodes going in year 2. So it was a combination that you got Franklin getting fired mid-year, which I think truly shocked that coaching staff. The fact that he stuck around and they still produced, I think, is a great sign. So the resume is fantastic, and he's 60. He's never been a head coach. It doesn't seem like he has any want to be a head coach. I know Signetti's kind of changed the clock a little bit, but that does not seem like a guy that is going to be like, oh, wow, Toledo's open, I'm going to go take Toledo, or like, oh, Pittsburgh, yeah, that sounds great, I'm going to go be coach of Pittsburgh in 2026. So you take that in the fact he's a great name. Penn State's paying a buyout, so you might get him a little bit cheaper than you think. And like I said, just the track record, I was kind of thinking about it. Like, this is best track record since Monty got hired, and in 2009, which is really impressive for either side of the ball, coordinator wise. So, I mean, that's really big that Tennessee's got hired such a big name.
Yeah. And when he was at Oklahoma State, that defense in 21 wasn't star-studded. Like, and I mean, it was Oklahoma State's defense. It was the Big 12 at the time. Like, it wasn't like they were producing, all sorts of first-round guys.
Right.
But one guy that came through that system that, again, not an NFL Pro Bowler or anything, but Malcolm Rodriguez, who is just like the good version of the kind of linebacker we want.
Yes.
Like, and again, you can't attribute every good thing to Knowles and every bad thing to Banks. Like, it's not what I'm saying. But a guy like that who is athletic, sound, a tackles his butt off, and that's what led him towards an NFL roster. I don't know. I mean, that's one name, but it also shows that he did it with just one name, like kind of just one or two NFL type dudes on that defense. And so he probably does it through scheme, and then we'll also be able to match that with a little bit of talent. I think that there's going to be a lot of people who combination of Knowles, and then we'll talk about it more in the coming weeks, but like the possibilities of what we might need in the portal. And that's always a conversation now in football. I think there will be some people who think he can just absolutely microwave it. Like he can just press plus 30 seconds on the microwave with some portal transfers and think he's going to be clean. It's probably not going to look like that. It just, like you said, doesn't seem to look like that with him. But that's not the game we're playing either, folks. Like that's not the timeline the program's on, in my opinion. That's not, in my opinion, not ever the mindset that you want to have. I think as soon as you are relying on one gasp at a portal and a 30-second microwave to fix everything, you're kind of cooked. Not to stress the analogy too badly.
It's a little bit of a complex system. I don't think it's something you just get right away. Looking at it, he runs what's called a 4 low 3 high, and he plays 3 true safeties, not really plays that nickel back and you'll see alignments where they have 3 safeties in between the numbers 10 yards back. It's a very unique system. It's very versatile scheme. He's not a huge blitzer, around 35-40%, which is about top 15-ish for power 4 teams, but he loves simulated pressure. He loves showing you 6, and he loves then running 4. And he disguises his coverages extremely well. He sends 5 when he blitzes most of the time. So on his blitzes in 2024, he sent 62.1% of the time. He sent 5 guys. So again, he loves to move guys around a little bit, show you one thing. He loves corner blitzes as well. That's something that Ohio State did extremely well. He loves cover 1 in quarters. Those are the 2 main coverages he'll play on the back end. You'll see the third safety be a hybrid at times. They like to rove him around. Helps when you have Caleb Downs.
Yeah, that's a nice hybrid to have.
Yeah, and you're like, hey, I've got the best college safety since maybe Eric Berry. That you can be a little bit more judicious in how you deploy your safeties. So they'll use even fronts, and what I mean by even fronts is they put 4 down linemen. That's going to be what you're seeing, and it's pretty true. Like you'll have your edges on the tackles outside shoulder, and then you'll have the tackles either inside on the guards or line up right over the guards. So nothing crazy there. They really rely on everyone helping with run fits. If you do not do your run fits correctly, this is going to be the big change. You will not play.
Mm-hmm.
So that's going to be at Tennessee. The last year didn't matter. If you could be Jeremiah Thielander and sip some tea while there was a run play going on, you still got to play next play. That's not going to happen under Knowles. He has a history of being able to get more out of less, which is funny because he's Ohio State's defense coordinator the last 3 years before 2025. But at Duke and Oklahoma State,
he got more out of more at Ohio State.
Absolutely. Yes, exactly. But he overachieved at Duke and Oklahoma State. It's how he got the job at Ohio State. You look at what the resume and you look at everybody, what they're saying. It's just the fact that he has this resume, that Tennessee was able to get him. Like, I was thinking if Schumann left for a job, and Kirby plays a completely different defense, so it doesn't make sense. Like, if they got Jim Knowles, everyone would be like, oh my God, like, man, you put Kirby and Jim Knowles together, or Kiffin got Jim Knowles to LSU, everyone would be like, wow, what a great job by Kiffin pulling that kind of dude. And we were able to get him. And don't let Franklin get fired, get it twisted. Jim Knowles is coveted. This is a guy that is a really, really respected mind in college football. And, it's not going to be perfect, just like any other defensive coordinator. Like I said, it's probably going to be some growing pains in year 1. And I'm sure people are going to be like, oh, why are we paying $3 million to this guy, blah, 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 when he gives up 27, to whoever. But I literally cannot complain about this hire.
Is there anyone, and this is I'm totally blindsiding you with this, and so I apologize. But
I did want to say one more thing real quick. Knowles has worked with strictly offensive head coaches.
Yes, that's the other important point about Gundy.
Cutcliffe, Gundy Day and now Heupel. So he has a history of being like, especially with Day and Gundy, being like, hey, you run the defense. I'm not going to worry about it. So I think that's a very important thing to bring
Yeah,
up.
and Day has spoken extensively about, like, it wasn't the only thing, but the fact that he was able to step back and hand things to Knowles and Kelly, he
Mm-hmm.
attributes that to a lot of their run last year in a
Mm-hmm.
pretty big way. We'll talk more about, like, the scheme, and Zach and I are going to do a film study on kind of what this looks like and how different it's going to look, and how we envision it for our team, and especially in relation to Heupel's offense. But are there any players from, maybe from this year, but from recent years, other than the front four, any players at linebacker or defensive back spot that you think are just like former Vols that you think would be like just a lovely fit in this defense? Does anyone pop in your head? And maybe not yet. Maybe we haven't looked at enough film. But
I'd
I'm
love to
wondering
see
if you can
Jalen McCullough.
Oh yeah.
Like, I think him in this defense would be perfect. I think right now, currently, I think if you're Jane Perlotti, you have to be ecstatic. Even though Knowles doesn't work, I mean, he's worked with linebackers. I would imagine, I don't know if they're going to hire a safeties coach or not, or if Knowles is just going to be safety / defensive coordinator like Hanks was. But like, I think Perlotti's got to be super excited. I would imagine Sidney Walton's just itching to get back out there. Maybe Caleb Beasley as well, who played a little bit, got some safety run. So I think those guys currently are should be really excited about this.
And we'll see. I don't mean this to say that the team was like out on things, but that last effort against Vandy was pretty poor defensively from like a overall scheme, but also effort perspective. There are times where, and this is pulling from like hearing former pros and stuff talk about this. There are times in a season where it seems like if people, especially on the defensive side, don't feel like they're being given the answers, they can get really discouraged. Like and again, I'm not attributing the whole thing to that, but like there might be a little bit of like Arian Carter or Jalen Perlotti or some people at that level of the defense that were like, hey, yeah, that run fit didn't work because it wasn't going to work. And sometimes I think when you have like a coming together where this, like, first and foremost, before anything else, before we're going to disguise, before we're going to get exotic, we're going to make sure these fits are cleaned up.
Yep.
There might be some guys who are like, hey, yes, please. And so, especially if the kind of deal from Knowles in this complex system is like, I'll give you the treats later, you got to show me you can fit a run. Then we have some guys who are willing to do that, and I think might just not have been set up to do that last year. And hopefully that's the case, where it was like they just weren't being given the correct answers to the test in those moments. And a combination of being given the correct answers and then being given some more creative options, that's where Knowles really starts cooking, I feel like.
He's going to teach them the addition and the subtraction before he gets the algebra.
Yes.
And at this point, with how awful they were this past year, that's fine. Even if they don't become, if they could become a top 60 defense next year, I would consider that a win. That's how bad they were this year. So, and I think maybe there was a little bit, paralysis by analysis this year, where it's like, oh, I see this guy coming up, it's 3rd and 4, but the play call says to stay on 10 yards back and play quarters. So I guess that's what I'm going to do instead of reacting. And I think this is going to help, where Knowles is going to give a little bit more freedom, be like, hey, 3rd and 4, and you see a bunch set, yeah, you can switch off because we called man coverage. Don't just follow your man, get yourself picked off. That's fine. Switch it up, either during the play or pre-snap, or, oh, hey, Joshua Joseph's you're beating your tackle, so I'm not going to ask you to stunt in the guard so my 3rd string defensive tackle can whip around and try and get the quarterback, but he's too slow. You're going to beat your man. We're just going to let you go. So I do agree that's going to just simplifying things and then getting into the complex stuff is how I would probably approach it if I was Knowles. But again, this is a man with, I think, 15 years of defensive coordinator experience at this level. So I think he knows what he's going to be doing.
Yeah. And the best versions of that Ohio State defense when he was there were they were suffocating because of how disciplined they were. And so I don't know. I'd like to see a world where the most obvious Zachariah Branch screen outside doesn't find success just because people are like, okay, here's where I go on this play. That play, that type of play against some of these Knowles defenses, for better or worse, somebody would have gotten on somebody and tried to disrupt that instead of just like, okay, the play's coming this way, I'm going to go along with it and try to. He empowers people to go make a play.
And like I said we don't care if he recruits. In his literal resume, it's like, hey, here's my 13 first rounders. I don't think it was 13, but here's the amount of first rounders that Ohio State got drafted since I became the defense coordinator. And it's a long list.
Yeah.
So
yeah. So I think
he's
got what you need.
Yeah, if that's all he's got to do when a guy gets on campus, that's fine. I don't think they need a master recruiter. And it's reported Banks didn't do much recruiting, which is fine. I am fine with that. But if you're going to do that, then you better have like a top 20 defense, not a bottom 20 defense.
Yeah, honestly. The other conversation as we head into like silly season, portal season, bowl season, whatever we want to call it now, is I think a broader conversation between me and you around the possibility of Joey getting a sixth year. This is a bigger college football conversation in general, but specifically for Tennessee, obviously it would have an impact on who our quarterback might be next year. What do you think is going to happen overall with the possibility of Joey getting a sixth year? And then what do you think that looks like for Tennessee's program? Is that something you want, or, is that not in a negative way, but is that something that you don't want to be the pattern we get into?
Little context for people who might not have been following. Aguilar joined a lawsuit with Diego Pavia. I believe it got reported the week of the Vanderbilt game that he is going to apply for a sixth year of eligibility or a fourth year of NCAA eligibility. And the argument is that JUCO years should not count towards your eligibility. The reason he got to play is because they were allowed 2-for-1. So 2 years of JUCO only counts as 1 year of eligibility, and you can play 3. That's how Joey and Pavia got to play this year. They're suing and saying they deserve to play all 4. I am personally against it. As a overall arching point, I think we've lost the plot with what we are allowing in terms of eligibility. I'm actually fine with the 3-year rule. Like, I'm good with that. I think that's fine if a kid goes play JUCO for 2 years. That only counts as 1. I don't have a problem with that. I'm thinking of some JUCO players like Jesse Mahalona. Like, how much fun would it have been having him 1 extra year? Stuff like that Tennessee used to recruit a decent amount of JUCO kids. That doesn't offend me. In general, I'm just not a fan of 25-year-old quarterbacks just playing college ball. I still feel gross about Chris Winkie at 27 winning a Heisman, and how did we allow that to happen? However, for Tennessee, I cannot imagine a better scenario than Joey coming back and playing 1 more year. We know Merck's going to leave. I don't think McIntyre's ready, and just throwing Brandon to the Wolves after he had to miss most of his senior year and didn't play like super high capable high school football. It wasn't like Georgia 6A, right? Is kind of what I'm trying to say. I think is a really risky situation. Plus, you don't have to worry about bringing in a 1-year kid who wants to start or get a guaranteed start and making McIntyre upset, or you not have to worry about trying to bring in like Sam Levitt, who's got 2 years, and then it's like, okay, are we going to run Brandon off? Is he going to want to play as a sophomore? So I think Joey coming back is the best case scenario for Tennessee, and letting him be the starter, letting Brandon redshirt, letting George get the number 2 reps for a whole year, and letting Joey lead that room. I think that's a great opportunity for Tennessee. And while Heupel's not on the hot seat, he can't go 7-5. I think then we're having a lot of different conversations. So I think for Heupel, he would much rather know what he has, go with the girl that or whatever that phrase is. I don't know. But just let Joey get 1 more year, and then we can see where we're at in 27.
Yeah, I might just be stubbornly wrong on this one. I don't know. Would we have a better offense if Joey came back for a year? I think, yeah. I actually think the world of, like, he's in the system another year and he cleans up some of the turnovers. I think we might be telling ourselves a story a little bit with that. I think Joey's just going to turn the ball over some. Um, but he's also a killer. Like, he's very good. He's tough as
Mm-hmm.
nails. I think he would put up numbers again, no doubt. And not just like Heupel's offense is going to put up numbers. I think he would play really well. And so many of those wide receivers are coming back, and there's every reason to believe that room is going to be really good again. I think it'd be great. But especially if, and we don't know, but especially if McIntyre is not really going to be the next one, I really want to see a world where Faison has the football in his hands. And again, maybe I don't want to see that world right away, because our schedule next year, combined with turnover on defensive scheme, combined with losing a target like Brazel, combined with maybe losing a tackle like that, I could be painting myself a picture of a really rough season that is going to have the fan base up in arms, especially if they're looking at a short time frame. But I think I'm just a little bit sort of miffed about the whole, like, automatic assumed redshirt. Why would I even want to play freshman year from Nico? And I'm not saying Faison is the same guy. I'm not even saying that's why Nico transferred. I think there's a million other things going on there. But I would love to see a guy who has multiple years in Heupel's system, from growing pains early on to absolute numbers later on. But those growing pains are going to be painful.
I think the schedule plays a huge part in this.
It's nasty.
Tennessee's going to have, I mean, and we're not even talking about having to go to Georgia Tech in Atlanta and play them against a team that was a top 25 team past year, who's got that ship rolling. So I understand your point, because we had the discussion. I guess we can bring it up now. Would you take Aiden for if Faison Brandon is a freshman All-American? Where it's not perfect, but all of a sudden, like, Mel Kiper's coming on being like, NFL teams already prepared for the draft in 2 years. Faison Brandon's the presumptive number one pick. Would you be willing to take 8-4 for that?
Like, I think that's capped at 8 wins.
Yeah, like capped at 8 wins. I think that's a fair argument. Like, maybe it's with Knowles coming in, a little growing pains year one. You could talk yourself into year two, but at the same time, you just look at that schedule and you're like, God, you got to go Arkansas, Kentucky on the road. You got to play Bama, Georgia, Texas in Neyland. I think LSU is on the schedule next year, if I'm not mistaken. It's brutal. And I would much rather take my chances with Joey or a transfer at quarterback, an experienced one. I know that Harvard kid's getting a lot of love, but I'd rather a guy who's played FBS football and done it well than just be like, Georgia Brandon will figure it out. Not worried about it. They'll get there. We'll throw them in the fire. Like, I just think Joey getting one more year is like the best case scenario for Tennessee.
I would feel better about either option if we had another just monster running back in the room. Like, yeah. And Bishop played so well, and I think at this point we have every reason to believe he will continue to get a little better. He impressed both of us, but another one would be great. Like, just a guy you can turn around and hand the ball to. I'm not trying to set up a world like we did 2 years ago where that's all we do. But just right. Like having that assurance that that can be the engine would be great. And Heupel always has so much success with that. I think part of what I worry about with the pattern of, like, Joey lingers for one more year, and it wouldn't just be lingering. He would play really well. I'm not meaning to be negative about him. But Joey's there for one more year, and then it's like, okay, is George ready? Is Faison ready? I don't know. I feel like you'd wind up in the exact same scenario, because what we would hope for is Faison to come on campus and be better than George. Right. Like a red shirt that has him starting in 2027. I don't think you want a world, obviously you want the better player to play, but I don't think we actually want it to be like a slow play with Faison where he starts his third year on campus minimum. I think we'd rather see him early, and that's not always how Heupel likes to operate, but I would love for that. I guess I would just love for that to happen sometime. And it's so rare in college football now, it feels like, or it has been for us recently, for you to be able to have some growing pains with a guy and you play Texas one year and you lose. And then the guy a year later goes absolute scorched earth on Texas and you could feel it coming and it finally happened. I just don't feel like we've had that in so long.
Okay, let's do this then. Here's the list of true freshman quarterback that has started at Tennessee since Eric Ainge. All right,
Okay.
Are you ready? All
This
right,
isn't
let's
going
do
to be
this.
fun for me.
B.J. Coleman, did he look ready as a freshman?
No.
No, he didn't. Tyler Bray, okay,
See?
he did. But they had a perfect plan for him that year where they let Matt Sims get his ass kicked for 8 games and then went to Bray. But that's okay. Bray, fine. Justin Worley, did he look great as a true freshman?
No, he didn't.
No. Do you remember how bad Josh Dobbs was as a true freshman?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Do you remember even in the limited backup, Quinn Dormady? Did that look like a ready true freshman?
No, golly, I wanted it to.
Will McBride might have made the best throw of the decade against Missouri and paid for it, but he wasn't ready.
No, it's very rare.
Harrison Bailey, did you have fun with him against Florida that one year?
No.
Yeah. And Nico, who was not even a true freshman last year, was a redshirt freshman.
Freshman.
That's part of it. I'm scarred from that because all I heard in 23 was Nico should be playing. He should be playing. Nico should absolutely be playing. Why is Nico not playing? Joe sucks. And then when we got to the meat of the SEC schedule in his second year, Nico was worse.
Well, worse. And then I think the reason I'm scarred is I'll trace it 2 ways. The reason I'm scarred is, one, we've been sold a bill of goods on some of these guys. Nico will be ready. Arch will be ready. It's just like, you can't tell me that and then they look as wonky and wobbly as they have. Like, I need somebody who looks crisp if you're going to be telling me this. And so we might as well find out quickly. But I think part of what just kind of makes me feel meh about the possibility is, like, it was very clear that Nico was on a how much can I cash in on this path. He had no interest in playing his first year. Like, it was part of the deal that he was not playing his first year, from my perspective.
I think that's fair. Okay.
And I would love, and I'm not saying this would lead to good outcomes, but I would love for it to just feel like Faison is like, I don't care. Give me the ball. And if the possibilities of, like, how good will the offense be were Joey at whatever age he will be versus Faison coming off an injured high school season, I think we know which one would lead to better numbers.
Mm-hmm.
But then what happens at the end of next year, I guess, is just my question. And you can't play that game. You got to get to next year. You can't do this. This is like saving your great pitcher for game 8. Like, I understand. But I just wonder when we get out of this and maybe this is just what it is now. You're in this cycle constantly.
First off, before I make my point, I want to apologize. I forgot about Brian Maurer. Please forgive me, Brian. I hope you're doing well. You did not look ready against Georgia as a true freshman, although that one pass to Marquez was marvelous. I will say that. That's the other point I wanted to bring up. If we were in a different era of college football where James Franklin goes from I have the ball with a minute left and need a field goal to win the national to make the national title game to 3-3 and fired. I don't think Josh can take the risk on 2 things. If Faison's not good and they go 6-6, or if Faison gets hurt and they go 6-6, you're in big trouble. Like, I don't know if he gets fired. I don't know that. And I would like to think that offensive line returning, running game, there's enough in there where 6 is the absolute bottom floor, like worst case scenario. But I can't guarantee that, especially now bringing in a new defensive coordinator. So for me, and here's the other part of it. If Mark leaves, which we all assume is going to happen, they have to bring in another quarterback anyway. You can't have 2 scholarship quarterbacks on the roster. So they have to bring one in any way. And you kind of have to be like, hey, you have the hard part of, like, hey, the job's open, which limits your pool. Like if they went and got Sam Levitt, cool, let's go, right? Like awesome. Or if Bryce Underwood with what's going on in Michigan comes available, like, hey, that's awesome. Let's
Let's
do
go
it.
score some points. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. But if you're like trying to get a guy with 1 year left and you're like, hey, the job's open, that limits your pool. That Harvard kid is not going to come to Tennessee with a promise of competing for the starting job.
Neither is the Cincinnati kid, who was my kind of sleeper.
Exactly. Yes, exactly. So to me, bringing Joey back where you don't have to recruit, where Faison and George are not going to be in a situation be like, whoa, hey, why am I not getting a chance? I think just works best for everyone, even if I'm against a 25-year-old quarterback on a general principle.
Let me say this. If this ruling is such that Joey's sitting there able to play, it would be so hard for me not to be like, yeah, let's do that.
Right. And again, think how well Joey played. And yeah, he's 25, so I don't expect him. Like, he's not going to go 2016 Tom Brady and throw 2 picks in 12 games. That's not going to happen with how he plays. But I would like to think if he comes back with a full offseason with what we know, what we have at wide receiver, and potentially 5 starters on offensive line returning, he will be better next year. And this offense was a top 15 offense.
There's no way Brazel comes back, right?
No.
There's no way.
He's at minimum a day 2 pick. So I would say go get the $2.5 million guaranteed, even if that's the case.
And then so like leaving him out, if things go well in the offseason offense personnel wise, that's still going to be such a nasty offense.
I mean, Matthew Staley, Keys coming in, maybe you bring in a transfer just to help with some veteran. I still really like Rodarius Jackson. I think he's got a bright future. We saw what Davis did his last 2 games coming in. And, I know there's been I think VolQuest or Price reported hey, both Sanders and Hurd want to play left tackle. I like to think enough money's going to fix that. We'll just be hey, Lance, here's an extra $500K, move to right tackle. You'll still be a day 1. You'll still be a first round pick if you do great. That's fine. But I just think you have a chance, I think, next year to have the best offense in the country. I really do. If you get a home run hitter at running back, even with and keep Bishop and, you have Peyton Lewis again as your third guy, or maybe Dwayne Moore steps up, you have a chance to be the best offense in the country. And you just can't pass out. If Tennessee had an average offense and this was the discussion with Joey, I'd be like, no, let's move on. But the fact they were this good in 2024 with the limited, or in 2025 with Joey's limited time to practice, I just feel like you can't pass that up.
Yeah, I think a little bit of what I'm doing is let me think about the
everyone loves the 5-star freshman quarterback.
Exactly.
I totally get it.
It's just so exciting, but it's almost like, hey, we have a 2-point conversion here. We can run a tight end leak that's guaranteed to score, or we can run a double reverse and score in a really cool way. It's like, how about we just score?
Yes,
and
exactly.
If
that's
Joey's
a great way to put it.
Yeah. And the other parallel I have, this was the one that I was thinking of, as I started to think about what I would do, is especially on the old NCAA football games where you were in a dynasty and your roster just got so stacked that you were like, oh, I'm excited to use the next really good guy.
Mm-hmm.
It was you have a 90, 92, 93 overall quarterback, and you're like, okay, he'll leave early, and then I can use this really exciting one next.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And then you go to the players leaving, and it's the junior quarterback just doesn't even have an interest in the draft. And you're like, well, I kind of thought he would be leaving. This kind of messes with my plan, but it's not like I'm not going to start him because he's going to be a 95 overall now. And so, and I'm not saying Joey's the best quarterback in the country, but he sure would have a nice connection with some of our receivers. And so I also think with Joey, whatever transfer wide receiver is out there, and again, I like our wide receiver room potential anyway, but you might be able to say, hey, look at Chris Brazel, look at this experience at quarterback, come catch some passes in this offense. And so maybe we'd have a little bit of luck, even though sometimes those high pool transfers need a year. And so we'll see. Mainly it'll just be interesting to see what happens with that ruling,
yes,
but in general, and then we'll kind of know which direction we want it to
go.
go.
And JUCOs have changed. A lot of guys now are like, I'll go to the lower level school and then I can transfer if it hits, and with with the help that players can get, JUCO for grades and stuff is not really much of a answer anymore as we've seen in the past. So I don't think that's going to change college football. I just, again, and maybe it doesn't matter. I mean, we've gone past it after COVID. Like we jumped the shark. So
speaking of
jumping the shark.
Yeah, speaking of jumping the shark, thinking about these wonderful bowl games that we're going to have. And yes, Tennessee has a bowl matchup. Yes, we're going to have plenty of time to analyze it. There's too much silly season stuff going on right now to grind Illinois tape. There is one very prominent team that is not going bowling. I would love a world where they're just not going bowling because they're not bowl eligible. Unfortunately, they were way too good for that to be the case. I'll preface this with Clark Lee's quote. And as a guy who was super classy after whipping our butts in Neyland, I'm happy to give him mild props on this quote. We like to play football around here. And so Vanderbilt's going bowling. There's another team with similar helmets that does not want to play postseason football this year. What are your thoughts on Notre Dame taking their ball and going home?
They have every right to be upset. I want to say that first. They are clearly one of the 12 best teams in the country.
Yes, they are.
The committee was wrong to put them ahead of Miami to begin with, and then lead them astray into thinking they were safe for weeks on
This process is so stupid.
Mike Leach rolled over in his grave here in committee, used 500,000 times on ESPN over the weekend. The committee was wrong to say they didn't consider head-to-head until they were in the same tier. The committee was wrong to say they didn't consider head-to-head until they were in the same tier after no new information about the two teams, whatever the hell that means. And I agree. I think they're a better team than Alabama and feel they would beat them on a neutral field. Here's my issue. You cannot have this entitlement. I don't care who you are. You cannot have this entitlement attitude they have taken on. You have chosen to play the rules of college football different than everyone else. You maintain your independence and are granted rights no other program in the country gets, including other independents in the past. Yet, you have the audacity to preach to people that you deserve better than everyone else because Newt Rockme and Rudy had movies made about them. Burning bridges with the ACC, who not one time publicly disparage your case, and you are not a full-time member of, and ESPN, who go out of their way to talk about you and to highlight you and showcase you in a way that they don't do for any other non-SEC team, is unseemly behavior. To get a special exemption just for you, under everyone's noses, not being publicly announced until you did it about a guaranteed playoff spot with a top 12 place in getting over other teams starting next year, then complaining that ESPN and others are out to get you is just paranoia at its finest. If you want the benefits of independence, you also have to take the negatives of independence. If you want a conference to advocate for you, then join a conference. If you don't want to join a conference, then you cannot be mad that you did not get advocated for. You cannot have your cake and eat it too. And the AD, Pete Pavaka or whatever, unbelievably just the arrogance that he has shown has not helped him at all. I thought last year that, or even this year, Clark Lea had a great case to make the playoff, and he handled it. Was like, hey, we lost 2 games. We did not get it done on the field. We're a team that gets it done on the football field.
I think Sark had a similar approach.
Yep, Sark did not have a similar approach until after the playoff committee.
After the decision was made.
Yeah, until after. Which is fine. I understand that's the game. It's dumb. How dumb is it that we have to have coaches on the field after a big win be like, my team deserves a playoff spot?
Just imagine this in any other sport. We've said it before, but oh my God.
Imagine Dan Campbell beating Chicago but being left out because the 49ers and the Packers and like the Seahawks all became the wildcard team and being like, I want to speak to, I'm trying to think of a former NFL, John Gruden, who's on the committee. You know, we deserve to be in because we play in the NFC. Like, could you imagine how dumb
we would all immediately say, what in the world are we doing? They're playing
exactly.
records. Anyway,
I know it's so dumb, but just the arrogance. Again, the fact they just won't admit, be like, you know, we're an independent. this is one of the negatives. When you get all the benefits, when you get the benefit of the doubt, if I'm UConn, I'm like, where's my number 12 spot and I get in the playoff? UConn's an independent. Why don't they get the same thing? They play Duke. Duke's an ACC team. They play ACC teams like Notre Dame. So it's unsurprising, unfortunately, because this is how Notre Dame acts. But hey, if they get someone in a conference and we can stop this stupid independent charade where 30 years ago it made sense, but it doesn't anymore, then I'm fine with it.
I think the thing that annoys me the most, and like we talked about, like bowl season is silly now. It's not what it used to be, all these different things. But it's like pretty much all these guys, and I mean coaches, but a lot of dudes in the locker room as well, pretty much all of them are absolute psychopaths about like, we'll play anybody, anywhere, anytime, suited up, our place, their place, neutral. We don't care. That's what you do. And like, yes, players can opt out. Yes, players can be in the portal. The timelines are weird. All that stuff. Like we're like, yeah, certain players aren't going to play. Certain players aren't going to like risk their future to play. Like I think we're actually okay with somebody prioritizing draft status over like the Camping World Bowl or whatever. But teams, programs, I think there is kind of still the expectation of like, hey, we can be as mad as we want. Let's go take it out on somebody.
I like Marcus Freeman. He should be embarrassed.
I agree. Like the way that he has, I mean, what is your brand if not we're going to go kick your butt no matter what the matchup is?
And I know this is going to be hilarious to say. The Pop-Tart Bowl has actually a pretty significant following. They've done it really well, and they would have played a really game BYU team. So it's not like they are asking you to go play Rice in Denton, Texas.
Yeah, this is this was a game. This was the two best teams that didn't make the playoff are about to play, and yeah, you can be frustrated with that, but one team's going to go play, and you're going to be sitting at home. And no, if you win that game, it doesn't change anything. It doesn't. There's no ring for that. You might be a frustrating trophy ceremony, whatever, but it's like, I don't know. I just think that these guys who build the whole thing on, you have to give me your heart and soul and we'll give you some NIL money in exchange. But the deal there is if I lead you into a dark place and you don't even know who you're playing against, you're going to go bash heads for 3 hours. And then to be like, oh, well, not this week. It's just like, get over it, dude. Get over it.
There are seniors who did not realize their last game was 2 weeks ago. And that sucks. And that's wrong to do that. And again, if you have a bunch of opt-outs, like Jeremiah Love's not going to play in that Pop-Tarts Bowl, okay, fine, whatever. But you also forfeit the 15 bowl practices that come with it with your opt-out. So you are literally pouting and your team's not going to get better. You are giving your opponents for next year an advantage that you forfeited because you're upset. That is awful program management. That's bad company management, that you're forfeiting opportunities to get better so you can pitch a mad fit and try and make a point that no one is going to side with you on because nobody likes you anyway outside of people who cheer for Notre Dame.
No one's going to be like nudge them towards the playoffs because they didn't play in a bowl game last year. No one cares.
Yeah, that's the other part of it. It actually probably hurts you worse now because now the community is like, oh, you're going to throw us under the bus? Like, why would we go to bat for you when you're speaking bad about multiple Power 4 commissioners?
I mean, the fact is, kind of a couple things going on. One, if Miami just drops another game, you're in.
Yep.
I think if Virginia wins, you're in. Maybe. That might still not have worked. Maybe. I think if we properly evaluate Alabama, you're in. And I also think that, like, if you had been an 8-win team, you'd probably go and play in a bowl game.
Well, you agreed to this system.
Yeah.
You get a seat at the table that no one else does. James Madison doesn't get a seat at the table. North Texas had a great season. They don't get a seat at the table. You get a seat at the table because you've had a couple famous movies produced about you, and you get to keep and NBC pays you a fat contract. So you get to the seat that nobody else does. You agreed to these rules of engagement, and now you're mad because they didn't benefit you. Screw off, man. Let's suck it up. You could have, when they were doing this, you could have been like, hey, you know what? This is dumb. Let's not do a committee. No, you didn't, because you thought the committee would benefit you because you're big name Notre Dame.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, they had every reason to believe that in every single ranking this year until the very end.
That's also true. That's why they're pouting so much. They did not think this would happen to them. That's 100% true.
If they would have early on had Miami ahead and said, "Hey, you guys, you have the same record and Miami beat you," we would have heard all this pouting all season.
Oh yeah,
but they just actually thought it was going to go great, and so they just threw a giant hissy fit in the moment on the cereal aisle because they couldn't get sugar smacks or whatever. I just think it's just so. If Tennessee did this, I would be embarrassed.
Oh, 100%. I would be horrified if Josh Heupel and Danny White were doing this. Although I wouldn't put past Danny White. He likes to get his way. I think
he would be more likely to use whatever bowl to just continue to make comments about it in every way possible. But who knows?
Or a fun fundraising hashtag would be coming out of this.
I don't know. The last thought on Notre Dame is fine. I hope you're proud of yourself. But all it takes over the next couple of weeks is people continue to mock you and you look stupid, and then BYU goes out and rolls somebody in a bowl game. And then a couple of the playoff teams look disappointing where you actually would have wound up really, really high in the rankings. And then Marcus Freeman gets entertained by some NFL suitors and suddenly leaves, and you're just going to look really stupid. And all that might not happen, but that path right there is oh, this was pretty dumb. Pretty dumb.
And what's even dumber is this having a committee decide playoff teams.
Oh my gosh, it's so stupid. Let's talk about the first round matchups. And then whether we think there's even a chance on some of these things. But I'm going to pull up the schedule because I forget what the order is on that first.
The first game's Oklahoma, Alabama, next Friday night.
What? I will say it is next Friday, but it feels so far away from the last.
It's only 9 days, but it does. Yes, it does.
It just feels weird. And I don't know. You and I both have thoughts on how to better do this schedule, but it is what it is for now. And so we've got some bowl games floating around, but really the big ones that we're waiting on from this perspective are Friday night, Oklahoma, Alabama, Oklahoma hosting. And then Saturday, you have Miami going to College Station. You have Tulane going to Oxford, and you have James Madison going to the zoo out in Oregon.
How did James Madison in Oregon get the Saturday night game?
My friend was asking me this too. My friend who's a Miami fan was like, why are we not primetime?
Well, yeah, Miami, Texas A&M should be the prime time. You move Ole Miss, Tulane to the noon, and then you move Oregon to the 4:00 game. That just makes sense.
It doesn't make any sense. And
who's got the James Madison connection at ESPN?
Oregon primetime is great, but make them Friday. I don't know.
Yeah, I know. Does James Madison keep it within 21?
Real quick, sorry, that Texas A&M game is going to be at 11 a.m. their time.
Again, I don't know why Ole Miss.
That doesn't make any sense. That's so strange.
I didn't understand the Saturday one.
Does James Madison keep within 21?
But boy, they didn't have a problem putting Tennessee, Ohio State on Saturday night, did they? No, not at all.
Columbus, they really needed that help of the primetime crowd. They were just, little old Ohio State. Do they keep it within 21?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
It wouldn't shock me if Oregon...
They lose by double digits. I know that.
Yeah, that's true. Let's see. Oregon wouldn't have played in about 3 weeks. So, maybe there's a, hey, it's slow in the first quarter. James Madison's, hyped up. Chesney's going to coach, but of course he's doing UCLA stuff. Yeah. So it's is he going to be fully prepared for this? Billy Napier maybe has some sort of secret sauce at Oregon. That was a joke.
He's used to playing James Madison level opponents, so
I think that's fair. It's going to get ugly though. I think in this one, second half.
Yeah, Oregon hasn't I think Oregon sometimes still seems like the team that's just going to like track meet you to death and win by 30. They haven't really done that a lot this year. They've kind of grinded out and slowly, precisely beat some teams. So we'll see. Do you think Tulane has a shot in Oxford? That's such a weird matchup now.
Well, yeah, and another one. How weird is it we have a playoff matchup where neither of the head coach on the regular season is going to be the head coach?
I know.
Well, some are all staying at Tulane for the game, but Golding's going to be the head coach for Ole Miss. It's just,
you know what's so funny about this whole stupid thing is like the big deal a couple years ago about like Florida State is a different team without their quarterback, but then we're all just like closing our eyes and pretending Ole Miss is the same team without the most sought after coach in a decade.
Somehow Texas A&M went from like number 3 to number 7, and Ole Miss got to jump them for reasons unbeknownst to anyone when no one thought Ole Miss was. It's so weird, and they caused 2 rematches where all they had to do was like, switch Alabama and Miami and switch Ole Miss and Texas A&M. Like there wouldn't be rematches.
Right, like y'all know you can just do this however you want, right?
I know.
Like if it was just computer rankings and we wound up with a rematch, okay. But I just think it's so stupid that Oklahoma's like, we just got to beat them again.
Yeah, we're going all over the place. Why is Alabama a favorite against Oklahoma?
Just to get money on that side.
It's gotta
I think there are times, especially this far out from a game, where we have to remember that spreads are not predictions. Spreads are where's the money going to land. And they want people to take that side.
It's like when Georgia was like, 5.5 point favorite against Alabama after they lost Alabama in the national title game. Everyone's like, oh my God, it's free money. Take Bama. And it turned out it wasn't. So I guess that's fair. I'm going to say this is who I have. Oregon, Ole Miss. I think Miami wins and Oklahoma.
I have the exact same picks, which makes me think we're going to miss one.
Oh, we're going to miss 2 now.
Yeah. Let me say, I really do feel like Miami's going to win. But if I had to teeter on one, it's absolutely always going to be Carson Beck on the road.
I know. That was like the one thing. Like, am I really taking Mario Cristobal and Carson Beck in a big road game? Especially like how bad they looked at SMU.
I probably trust the other coach and the other quarterback a little bit more.
Yeah, I might have to follow the Nick Wright rule of like, do you trust the coach more?
I know.
And do you trust the quarterback more? Yeah. Oh, then why am I taking the other team? Yeah, I'm starting to regret that.
And then Alabama, Oklahoma, I don't know what Alabama's going to show up. Like Oklahoma's defense, we know is tough as nails. We got to experience that. Well, I think their offense can find success, even though they haven't been great. But it's like that run game sucks, and Ty Simpson has not been good.
Well, as part of Alabama's letter to the committee, they're apparently getting Julio Jones to suit up. Like they didn't play their real people against the SEC title game. They're getting Rolando McClain's coming back. I still think Oklahoma is just going to suffocate them, especially with how bad offensively they looked. They cannot run the ball. Like there's not. I don't even care if J.M. Miller comes back. They just cannot get 4 yards when they
especially
need it.
Not down in Norman.
And Mateer's played better at home than on the road, so I think they're gonna score enough. Oklahoma's defense might outscore Alabama's offense. It would not shock me if that occurred.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me. And I think Oklahoma is canceling all campus activities that day. They're just leaning into it. They're like, hey, we have one thing to do today. Everybody get ready, which I kind of respect as someone who works on a college campus. I
got Georgia, Ohio State, Texas Tech, Indiana in the semis. So I went chalk. And then I got Georgia beating Texas Tech in the title again.
How would that match up? Who would beat Ohio State?
Ohio State would play Georgia 2-3.
Okay. I can buy that more than I can buy Texas Tech beating Ohio State.
Yeah, I think Texas Tech can get Indiana, though. I think their defense is good enough.
Yeah.
I think they can do it, run the ball enough. Look, God bless Curt Cignetti. What he's done is absolutely incredible. I don't know why Urban Meyer was like, this is the greatest turnaround ever, and if anyone ever says anything negative about my comment, I'm going to fight them. I'm like, Bill Snyder did exist, people. Like, that was Like, we do need to at least give Bill Snyder some credit, but I think Indiana, it almost reminds me a little bit of Oregon last year, where you're like, okay, they're going to have a month off. They get this awesome, undefeated. They kind of got, I won't say lucky. Well, they got lucky against Penn State. I'm willing to say that. They did beat Ohio State straight up,
They
but
played very well.
just like maybe the moment's too big in the semis. But it'd be interesting because Texas Tech, Oklahoma, or Indiana, Oklahoma would be a really fun 1-8 matchup if it happens.
Ooh, yes, it would.
So would they be able to protect Mendoza enough? And I'll just be honest, I don't trust Mendoza after I saw that interview. But
I was sitting there.
it threw me off.
I don't know what to do with him because I was texting you during that Big Ten title game, like, gosh, he looks a little shaky. And then he made like 6 plays in a row that were absolutely incredible.
This is terrible analysis for a podcast that prides itself on analysis. There was just way too much youth pastor vibes with that interview, and I'm out. I am out.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Are there any other bowl game matchups that you're excited about right now?
That feels like a conversation for next week. After all the coaching stuff, I don't even have the full list yet. Like, I'll just be 100% honest. It's bad podcasting, but
I have one funny observation.
Go for it.
App State is in a bowl, even though they're 5-7. I don't know why. They played Georgia Southern, who they played about 3.5 weeks ago. So I don't know why that is, but they get to play again after losing.
I'm sure Sickos Committee, the Sickos Committee Twitter feed will give me plenty of updates during that game.
I think that's 5-7 versus 6-6. They've already played, and it was a 2-point game, one of the ugliest games I've ever seen. So,
hey, bowl eligible teams, stop opting out. Get you 15 practices, you idiots. It's worth it. Jeez, man. Why is Iowa State's like, we're not going to practice? I'm like, you just hired the coach? He can come up with a 15-game practice schedule. He makes $6 million a year. That's not hard. There's a Google spreadsheet for that.
He's got portal text messages to send.
Yeah.
All right. We've had coaching carousel news. We've had really interesting coaching carousel news today. Do you have any favorite moments, favorite hires, or any other predictions to make?
Penn State going through 7 names and then ending up with a name they should have just started with at the beginning was some hilarious stuff.
Yeah, that was someone, I think, joked like, why did you wait this long to make maybe the best hire of the entire cycle?
Yeah, I don't know if it's the best hire.
Right.
Like, I think Matt Campbell, I have concerns about his offense in a big-time college football setting like Penn State. But if they had hired him 2 weeks ago, everyone would have been like, oh, cool hire. Great job. Nice work. Yeah. And then they're like, what if we flirted with Kalani Sitake for a week?
And got turned down really publicly.
48 hours get turned down real publicly so we can just hire Matt Campbell. Like, I think that was probably the funniest moment. Then just, laying to LSU, but we talked about that last week.
Campbell, the one thing I'll say, and this is so unfair, but sometimes these things end up being correct. That dude was a cornball in all the videos I've seen. And like, this is what coaches do. We understand this. Like, the presser is always silly. Mm-hmm. But like, they have like a shot of him and his family walking into the stadium, and he's wearing like school color suit, whatever. And he's looking around, and I get that like you have to be in awe. Like, this is what they want you to do. You can't go and be like, yeah, it's a stadium. But I mean, he was acting like the Sistine Chapel was painted on the ceiling of the stadium. Like, you've played in big stadiums before, dude. It's okay. Like, I don't know. He just like, he like looked over, jaw dropped, like, wow, this is why they make them. It's like, just take it easy, dude. It's okay.
You did play. I don't know. You did play against Oklahoma and Texas. Like,
yeah, I just had this feeling of like, this was either your dream job or you're just full of crap right now. Just go do a presser and get going, dude.
I almost wonder if this was just like hey, I'm starting to get figured out a little bit. Iowa State, this might be now or never.
Yeah, and now he's their hope. The other one that I thought was interesting that surprised me a little bit, and I think probably surprised you a little bit, was Heartline at USF.
Mm-hmm.
And especially from I don't know that this will actually happen because Ohio State is Ohio State, but there is a little bit of like will he keep some of those Florida receivers down in Florida a little bit? Mm-hmm. And I know like if you're Miami and you're already fighting Ohio State, now you're fighting USF for whatever version of Malachi Tony is roaming around down there in South Florida. Like, you don't want those problems. Like, stay out of here, Brian
No.
Hartline. And so that'll be interesting from a roster building and recruiting perspective. But it's not like they didn't have an awesome guy there before in Golish. And so I'm not really sure what to make of like the leap they're making or anything.
No, 100%. Iowa State, I guess, was preparing for Campbell to leave. They hired Jake Dicker within 24 hours. And the Dicker was like, I love Wazoo in his presser. And I'm like, brother, you've stayed 1 year and left. Shut up.
I love it.
Stop. And great job by Cal, by the way.
Yeah.
Getting Tosh. That's a great job. And I thought it was a weird like firing with Wilcox, and then Ron Rivera was like, yeah, I made the decision. I'm like, why does Ron Rivera get to decide who's the head coach at Cal? And they pulled Tosh. And I'm like, that's a great hire. Good job.
Did Wilcox land anywhere yet?
I don't think so.
So you got Wilcox still in place. You got Jed Fish still in place. Any other coaching news happen, Zach?
Unfortunately, maybe unfortunately is the wrong word. It took a dark turn quickly. So I was going to have a very different attitude about Sherrone Moore being fired. So I won't make any jokes or anything like that. I want to be respectful, and hopefully everyone's okay, which it seems like everyone is now, but that it got hairy. I thought that 9-3 this past year, so I'll just stick to football. Let's just do that.
It's all we can really do with something like this.
Exactly, 100%. I mean, we don't know the whole situation. There's no reason to speculate. I thought not this 9-3 season was as leaky as 9-3 as you can get. I don't know if he would have survived after 2024 if they lose to Ohio State and Larry Ellison doesn't bankroll Bryce Underwood. Like, I really think that his job was on the line, and they pulled it out by beating them. I had no clue where Michigan goes from here. And you got to be thinking, like, really, Matt Campbell? Really? you leave now after you turn down every other possible job? Because he would have been in Ann Arbor tomorrow morning if this was the case. But it's not. So maybe they throw the house at Jesse Minner, although that just seems bad timing. I think he'll get an NFL job in a couple of years. I don't know. Kalen DeBoer rumors already just floating there, which I think for Michigan be a great hire.
Mutual interest type of rumors too, not just like random names thrown out.
Yeah, and if DeBoer goes 9-4, he's on the hot seat, like a theoretical one, I should say. Or would they be 10-4? Excuse me, 10-4. So Michigan, while they have a rabid fan base, is not Alabama in the way of expectations, where it's like, oh, I went 10-4, I'm not going to get fired, or if I go 10-4 again, or I haven't made a national title in 3 years, I'm going to get fired. So that would not shock me if DeBoer's the coach. If you ask me, and of course, too, my boy, Jason Candle took the UConn job a week ago too. I'd be like, well, that'd be a nice fallback plan, but that's not going to happen. So I wouldn't be shocked if it's DeBoer, and then of course Lincoln has the opportunity to do the funniest thing ever.
It could be incredible. I think the mentor idea is a very good one. I don't think it's going to happen. I agree with you.
I don't think so either, by the way.
I think he's on the trajectory he wants to be on with a very good, mentor that he's followed already. And then he'll be, who knows where he'll coach in a couple of years.
He's going to get an NFL job within 3 years, max. So I agree. That's a pipe dream.
He would be a really nice, Las Vegas Raiders actual good coach within the next couple of years.
I don't know why you do that, but okay.
Yeah, that's sorry, Jesse.
Don't wish that on him.
Let me say this as someone who, here and there roots for Ohio State. I would so much rather face Sherrone Moore than Kalen DeBoer.
100%. I mean, I thought more, this is personal opinion. I watch every Michigan game. I think if people who don't watch Michigan go, 9-3, that's perfectly fine. I think Moore was a bottom 8 Power 4 coach. And I thought that might be generous. That is a team that only was 9-3 because of schedule and talent.
Schedule and talent, and they just have dudes on defense that are going to fill up defense like NFL rosters.
And I will say Moore is a top of the line offensive line coach, so they had enough where they can create enough holes and let Justice Haynes run free for 75 yards occasionally. But I mean, that offense is, I call it, you laugh at this, it's a Tecmo Bowl offense. He has 6th place. And I didn't like him personally either. I thought, even with, and this is not revisionist history, I remember we texted about it when it happened. The crying after the Penn State game in 23 when he took over for Harbaugh was so disingenuous. Then the Oklahoma firing up the crowd before the game, before you got your ass beat, was just embarrassing. He just, and again, I don't want to speak too harshly because of what's going on, but he was in over his head.
This is purely the things that your opinions.
Football.
It's purely football. Like, this has nothing to do with the, frankly, potentially very A, stupid, but B, really damaging.
Yeah, good way to put it.
Yeah, I think that we're not even.
He was not mature enough to run a football program. It is clear from what is going on that he was not mature enough to handle this job. And the only reason he got it is because Jim picked him. And that's on Ward Manuel, too, the AD at Michigan. Like, you should have run a real search, especially because everyone knew Jim was leaving. You had 3 years to figure this out.
Of there.
I mean, he tried to get out of there after 21. Like, everyone thought the Vikings were going to hire him, and it backed out the last second. So the fact you had 3 years to cultivate a list, and you
fell on something,
and then was like, oh, Jim's, hey, president, I forget who the Michigan president is. Jim, tell me Sherrone's going to be the next head coach. Like, that's awful processing.
Amid turmoil and investigations and everything else, like, it's just not.
And I will say this for Ward Manuel, he hired Dusty May, the basketball coach, and that's gone great. So I'm willing to give him a chance here. But yeah, I think overall for Michigan, you wish the timing was different. I think you'd rather this had happened 2 weeks ago. Well, at least in terms of him being fired. But I think overall it's probably going to be a good thing for them.
I'm going to say a few names, and you tell me, again, you as someone who occasionally roots for Michigan, if you would want them to be the coach.
Yeah.
DeBoer.
Yes.
Marcus Freeman.
Yes.
Lincoln Riley.
No. I just don't think that would work. There's too much Rich Rod. There's too much Rich Rod comparisons there.
I think Riley's offense works everywhere. I think that would be a pretty bad fit.
I think it's a bad fit culturally as well. I just don't think he would work well there.
Jed Fish.
If the timing was different, no. But if they got Jed Fish now, I think that would be okay.
I don't know that he has actual connections there. Like, in a way that should be a name, but I'd like him as a coach.
I think it can work. I think he has Harbaugh ties, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
So that might be a situation there where it could work. He was a Michigan quarterback wide receivers coach for 2 years with Harbaugh.
Okay.
So I was correct in that. So I think I'd be okay with Jed. I think if you'd asked me in November if this happened, if they hired Jed Fish, I'd probably be like, I don't know. But also a little bit kind of culturally, he's a little aloof, which I think on the West Coast is fine. I don't know if that works for Michigan.
Not the favorite. Yeah. And then I'll say two others that I think I know your answer on, but they're funny. PJ Fleck.
Get the hell out of here.
And then Brian Kelly.
I'm not even dignifying
that last one. All these other ones were for the listeners and for everybody. That last one was just for me.
Here's the thing, though. Actually, they can't hire Kelly. After what's going on with Moore, because there's all rumors of Kelly at LSU. But boy, LSU really knows how to pick him, man. They know how to pick him. Yeah. So they can't do that.
I can't think of many other names. I mean, besides just like going through the list of college football coaches.
Fish makes a ton of sense.
He does. And that's a better job than Washington. That's a whole tier or two up from Washington. And he is one that people are like, Jed Fish, but then they look and they're like, damn, he's pretty good.
I mean, what he did with Arizona was fantastic. And he's been fine at Washington. At DeBoer, I mean, you look at what Washington, you talk about a team that lost a lot off of a magical season, and then the transfer portal, and then the coaching staff. Like they did lose a ton. And I think Fish has done a pretty solid job. I just think, I don't know. At Michigan, to me, you have to have a personality. It is not a place that recruits itself. It is not Ohio State. It is not Alabama. It is not Miami.
There's a reason that Harbaugh was like being almost like a cartoon character in his recruiting process.
There's a certain level of charisma you have to do your job. Maybe not as much as it used to be 10, 15 years ago because of the NIL and what that brings. But there is hard to convince kids to be like, hey, do you want to play football in 20-degree weather in November? Like that, there is a certain way that you have to phrase that. So Fish's personality, I don't know, would thrive, but he is a good ball coach. And I think at this point where you're at, if you get him, that is a win for the program.
Let me say a name that I don't think is going to happen. I think it'd be really interesting. Kenny Dillingham.
Boy, that you talk about a completely different personality than Jed Fish.
Totally.
Yeah, I think that'd be really fun. I think him and Day would be just must-see TV. In terms of matchups offensively, I would be really good with that. That would be really fun. He brings something completely different to Michigan as well.
He's at his alma mater, and so I think everyone's like, okay, he's stuck there, but like that just doesn't happen in this world.
No, I don't think he's stuck there. I think, though, he wants to stay at Arizona State. It seemed like SEC schools were very interested in him, and nothing really gained traction outside the watch for this name that Pete Thamel or Pete Nakos.
Let me say, though, at a certain point, like you're 35 and you're everyone wants you. Yeah. It becomes hard to say no at a certain point. So we'll see.
It does.
He's a very principled guy, it seems like.
And everyone's different, right? Lane didn't go, I'm bringing up Kiffin. Lane didn't go to USC, but when he coached there, it was completely different for him. He felt like that was home, right? So Dillingham might look at Michigan and be like, that's a place I always wanted to be. That's a place I envisioned myself when I played video games. So I don't know, but I'd be happy with Dillingham.
The name that I would love, it's not going to make sense. The age doesn't make sense. I don't even know if he would go, but I think Kyle Whittingham would be really fun.
I mean, they've already 10 years ago, absolutely.
But he's pretty old. He's 66. Who knows how long he's going to be.
They've already got a successor ready at Utah. Yeah. The funniest name out of all of this would be John Harbaugh.
Oh, that would be really fun.
Who did have rumors legitimately that he was looking at coaching college, and that intrigued him a couple of years ago. And he's in the hot seat right now in Baltimore.
That would be incredible.
You want to talk about like just sticking some middle fingers at the NCAA.
Harbaugh there. Minter goes to the Ravens. That would not happen.
Yeah.
But yeah.
That's not impossible. I just don't think the timing would be right. It's so much harder to hire an NFL coach than it used to be with timing and the signing periods and the portals and everything.
So we'll see. We'll see what happens. And then, again, like a little bit of a weird wait, a little weird bye week, but we've got I hate the process to get there, but we've got some fun games coming up. And so next week we'll dive more into Knowles. We'll dive more into Tennessee's bowl matchup. And then we will kind of check in and see if we want to revise any of our predictions or see if any other developments have come from some of this stuff.
And we apologize for not talking basketball. We understand that is a 3-game losing streak. It probably should be brought up. But Tennessee, and we were going to talk basketball. The defensive coordinator situation took priority.
We'll get back to it. We'll see if they can get it kind of back on the rails a little bit. Frankly, I didn't expect us to have a D coordinator hire, and I didn't expect the Michigan thing to happen. And so things kind of veer that direction, and that's okay. Basketball season will
and we
still
had
be
to talk
rolling.
Notre Dame. Any chance you can take 15 minutes and just, take a dump on them, you have to do it.
This guarantees that Marcus Freeman is the next Michigan coach. Awesome. We'll see everybody next week. We'll keep rolling on it, and then we'll see what we learn.
Appreciate you guys. Please subscribe to wherever you get your podcasts, YouTube, Apple Music, Spotify, wherever you may download. We appreciate you guys. Keep looking forward to us. We're going to keep doing weekly episodes. Thank you so much, and go Vols.